Hi, I'm Michael Smith for Nevada Trails. Today, a very special show. I have Maureen McCarthy with the Tahoe Science Consortium, and I saw you do a speech at the TRPA, and you just knocked my socks off. I tell you, you were just so intelligent, and I thought, this is heaven. This is absolutely heaven. And I mean, you talked about a science convention that had a lot of big thinkers, and then you talked about the Tahoe Science Consortium, and I thought, well, okay. So I look at the Tahoe Science Consortium. It was started in 2005, is this correct?
Yes.
Okay, and it's partners with University of Nevada, Reno, the Desert Research Institute, University of California, Davis, the U.S. Geological Society Survey, and U.S. Forest Service. I mean, there's some heavy hitters in here. I'm thinking, and you're the executive director.
It's pretty cool, huh?
So that's, where do you work out of exactly?
Well, Michael, it's a delight to be here. I'm really pleased. It's a lovely opportunity to talk about science, and I'm very grateful that you would be interested in hearing about science in the basin. So yes, I am the executive director of the Tahoe Science Consortium, and I do work with a lot of heavy hitters, as you said, and a wonderful brain trust who work in the basin, and many of them work in other areas as well. My office is actually in the Tahoe Center for Environmental Sciences on the Sierra Nevada College campus in Incline Village.
Beautiful.
It is a beautiful location. And from there, I spend some time in my office and some time meeting with my colleagues in the TSC and also meeting with my agency colleagues around the basin.
Well, you have some very some intelligent people, and I tell you, every time I meet more people, the more comfortable I am about the future. I met Ed James at one of his little conferences.
Mm-hmm.
And he had some brilliant people with water. And then I looked through a guide I picked up last night. You were at the TRPA, what was it called? Kind of a
Community Appreciation
Community
event
Appreciation. And you gave me, you were showing pictures, by the way, that were absolutely perfect. They were kind of like seeing, for kids that kind of see what reality is of science and in visual, because I always believe in visual and verbal at the same time. So you're there.
It's important here, especially in running and working in applied science, it's important to not only do top quality science, which we certainly do, and my colleagues do, who run the research programs, but also to be able to communicate that to a broad audience, to be able to communicate it to the public, to the managers who work in the basin, and hopefully to the next generation of scientists.
Well, one of the people last night we were looking at was Goen. Is that his name?
Peter Goen. Peter Goen was responsible for a lot of the photographs that I had up
They
yesterday.
were absolutely beautiful, and I'm pretty sure that I saw him, his work at the Snowflake at the Barton Hospital.
Yes, quite possibly. Peter is the chair of the photography department for the University of Nevada, Reno, and Peter has the largest collection of Tahoe photographs anywhere in the world that date back almost 200 years.
Wow.
And he has done photographs, recent contemporary photographs. He has some fabulous books. And I challenged Peter a year ago when we were trying to put together the display for the 2011 Federal Summit in August. And I said to Peter, I want to convey some very important things in science, but I want to do it in a way that it reaches a broad audience. So here, and I gave him some key papers, some fact sheets, and I said, tell this story in pictures. And that's exactly what he did. And last night, what you saw was the photographs, mostly focused, some historical pictures, but mostly focused on the recovery from the Angora fire, because we were honoring the firefighters last night.
It was very emotional, and what really struck me was the fire truck had the boom up with the flag.
Yes, that was beautiful.
So I was already kind of emotionally there. And then I come around and looking at all the booths, and it was fantastic. There was a lot of good things that, like usual, that's definitely worth a go-to to do. But then your pictures looked exactly like the 911. The Angora fire looked like one of the towers burning. It was just a lot of smoke.
It was a lot of smoke, a lot of damage, and very scary for people who live there, and big impact on the environment. And that's one of the things, as one of the major focuses of the science program, is to be able to understand how to reduce the risk of forest fire and do it in a way that protects the environment, protects the wildlife, but also protects people and their homes from catastrophic wildfire, as Angora was and as the Gondola fire was in 2002.
Oh, that was scary. I was dating my girlfriend, and she lives about a mile or less than a mile from the gondolas. I was calling up her dad. We weren't very friendly that day.
Yes, I can imagine.
But one of your handouts last night was about some of these scientists, and from this just says Tahoe, and there's some brilliant people in here from all walks of life.
Absolutely.
And I was really, really, like I said, very, very happy to be around you, because the more I talk to people like you, the more I'm relieved about the future of our lake. And because obviously you had a head start of the lake being kind of taken down a few notches, but one of the guys in this book was like invented the TMDL or something.
Is one of the researchers who's working on the implementation of the TMDL, yes.
Well, that's not bad.
That's pretty impressive,
Yeah.
yes.
And then one of the gals from the League to Save Lake Tahoe, I didn't know that she was into the science community, to be honest. I thought she was into communication. So you have some friendly people you work around with, too.
We have, it's pretty amazing. You know, the science in Lake Tahoe has been tremendously well supported for the last, particularly for the last 7 years. We've put out nearly 100 projects running right now.
100 projects?
100 projects. They're running from 30 different institutions, academic institutions, nonprofits, firms in the area, federal agencies, state agencies. And probably the most impressive thing is we've been able to put out just about $3.4 million a year in grants each year for the last 7 years. And that's due entirely to the Lake Tahoe Restoration Act, and then the funding that went with the Lake Tahoe Restoration Act, which came from the Southern Nevada Public Lands Management Act. So as a result of selling off public lands in Southern Nevada and Clark County, we were able, and they set aside $300 million for restoration in Tahoe. And just under 10% of that went to science, which was fabulous. And so those science grants have been pushed out every year for the last 7 years. So there's a whole collection of fabulous researchers working on this program. And they come from all disciplines. And that's the amazing thing. It's really, truly an interdisciplinary activity.
When you get back to this booklet, all these big thinkers, I don't know, for some reason you think of a laboratory. Everybody out here was out in the field practically.
Yes, most of our people are in the field. Now a few of them. Now you see. That's Tom Jackman. Tom's laboratory is actually at Desert Research Institute, and it is the phenomenal visualization facility.
I couldn't figure out what it was. You go in there and you're like in a virtual reality or something.
Well, you need to go to DRI to see that facility. I assure you, you'll be very impressed. You can walk all the way through the entire Truckee River from Lake Tahoe all the way to Pyramid Lake in 3 dimensions.
Excellent.
So,
well, as director, do you get a chance to go out in the field much?
You know, I made a point this summer of getting out into the field, and that's one of the joys of being in this job. Sure, I have a lot of paperwork to do and a lot of meetings to attend, but one of the best parts was being able to go out with the UC Davis team onto the research boat. I got to see Secchi disk measurements actually taking place. I went out with UNR researchers and DRI researchers to see some forest health and some forest fuel projects that they had.
That's excellent.
Saw some of the recovery that was done, research right after the Gondola fire and the Angora fire. I even went out with Peter Gowen's photographers to understand how they took time sequenced photographs to watch the restoration while it was taking place. So it was, I've had an opportunity to get out, and I do get to the institutions to learn and to meet with the researchers themselves. These aren't just professors, they're students, they're graduate students, they're postdocs, they're visiting scholars. I mean, we have a phenomenal brain trust of people who have been working in Lake Tahoe, and it's been a privilege to be able to be part of this.
Well, I'll tell you, science is a lot of fun. You maybe flash back to a second there where I went to the snow conference, and they had time-lapse photography of like looking up from like your yard. Well, they were doing the time-lapse of the sun and the moon, all those kind of things, figuring out about the snow melts and all those kind of things, and how that turns into water and things like that. I thought, well, you just break it down for your own yard, what to grow and where to grow it and what kind of things to grow. And I thought, cool.
Yeah, yeah. And actually, the nice thing about the science that's been done in Lake Tahoe is that a lot of it is very applicable. I mean, we've worked on very important problems for Lake Tahoe, keeping Tahoe blue. You know, it's not just a bumper sticker. It really is a vibrant research program trying to understand how the clarity of the lake has changed over the years, what the causes are, what we can do to prevent the deterioration in lake clarity. Like I said, I phrase the science in different ways. We are working very hard to keep Tahoe blue. We're working very hard to keep Tahoe beautiful. So we're looking at nearshore and algae, and we have a variety of programs that have been applied to lots of different problems.
Well, I remember I met a man who was about 90 years old, and he told me when he was 20, he came to Tahoe, and he was trying to keep that blue water cupped in his hand because it was so breathtaking. And every time I go over that pass coming into town above, where you can see the airport first, coming in from the south side, it just takes my breath away. So, yeah, everybody's rooting for you, I know that. Well, we're going to take a break soon, but go ahead and give out some of your contact information.
Would love to. So if you would like to learn more about the Tahoe Science Consortium and our member institutions and all of our programs, I recommend you go to our website, www.tahoescience.org. All of our contact information is on there, and we would love to hear from you.
Do you have a chance ever to get like your interns or yourself to like kids places?
Well, one of the great joys of working in the Tahoe Center for Environmental Sciences is that I work very closely with the education programs from UC Davis and the Thomas J. Long Education Center. So
excellent.
I get to see kids learning about science every day.
That's the joy. That's why we're here. Well, we'll be right back after a short break. Hi, we're back with Maureen McCarthy of the Tahoe Science Consortium, and I tell you, what is the future of the Tahoe Science program? That's just the bottom line.
Michael, I'm so glad you asked that. As I said earlier, the science programs in Lake Tahoe have been very well funded for the last 7 years, thanks to the federal funding that we got from the Southern Nevada Public Lands Management Act. We did push out our last round of science grants this past summer in June of 2012. And that's the end of our funding for right now. So we are looking at new ways of building partnerships to find additional funds to be able to keep this phenomenal intellectual base that's in the basin together. And we really want to make sure that we don't lose the brain trust that's been looking at problems in Tahoe, but making sure that what we've learned about Tahoe, we can actually apply to other areas around the country, around the world. Tahoe is a wonderful, phenomenal example of a mountain aquatic ecosystem for which it is where there's a lot of population and a lot of impact. And so we think that what we've learned about Tahoe, we can teach other people around the world about how to manage mountain ecosystems in the proper way.
It's exciting. I was just telling you yesterday about being on at Zephyr Cove Vista View and looking at the fire burns and wondering how that affects the lake. And I think you said this year there wasn't any or something like that.
We did not have any prescribed burns this year because the fire risk was so high. So as you look at Tahoe, think about lots of things. Yes, absolutely, we need to keep Tahoe blue, and that's been a big focus of our science and of the management. But we need to keep it beautiful, meaning that we need to be able to, clean the near shore, deal with aquatic invasive species, a very big issue. The Asian clams have come into the lake just within the last 10 years. And how do we manage that? How do we prevent them from coming in? How do we prevent more species from coming in? How do we restore what's the damage that they've done and the algal blooms that caused by them? And we also want to keep Tahoe livable. Livable means for people, for wildlife, for nature, and most importantly, for all of us, for our crystal clear, beautiful lake. And we need to keep Tahoe safe. We need to work on forest fires and understanding how to reduce the risk of catastrophic wildfire in the basin.
Well, I agree. That's all very emotional. And this is one of my little emotional pet peeves is the leaf blowers. As a person on oxygen, I just hate seeing it because they create this big bloom of dust and dirt, and I don't know. Then you see the guy at the street cleaners trucks. I mean, you don't see anything bad coming from them picking up all this stuff, and I don't know, maybe we could get them to vacuum or something.
Well, it's good you mention that, because one of the things that we've looked at in the science program is the amount of dust that's blown up by traditional street sweepers, and how those street sweepers produce fine particle dust that really impact lake clarity. I mean, that's a major issue. Road dust, urban runoff is the major impacts of impact to the lake for the changing lake clarity. So we want to be able to do that. And if you have a hard time breathing, then our lake has a hard time breathing.
I agree. Actually, one of the guys was doing it right by the King's Beach. We were having a TRPA meeting, just going in there. I'm like, oh, no, don't do it.
Yes.
Well, anyways, this is not the fun question, but what are the major problems right now? What do you think, if you are the boss, what do you think you need to really focus in on?
You know, I think one of the things that we have done in the basin so far is trying to understand the functions of the ecosystems, what caused the impacts that we've had on the lake, how do we reduce wildfire, all the things I just talked about. But I think looking forward, what we need to do is we need to approach the ecosystem as an integrated system where we have both human development, wildlife, nature, all the things that we value in society. So it's looking at how do we support resilient, environmentally sound redevelopment in the basin to be able to reduce the impact on our stream environment zones, to reduce the impact on the lake from urban runoff, to be able to work on cleaning our air and dealing with the impact to air quality. And to really understand how we deal with challenges in the future. And probably from a scientific perspective, the biggest challenge we have are the impacts of climate change. Because this environment is not going to look the same. And it doesn't look the same now as it did even 5 years ago and 10 years ago. So as we look at the science, we need to understand how the environment is going to change as a result of the changing climate, which could have a huge impact on the basin due to changes in the storm patterns, droughts, and those types of things. So the science is evolving, and it's evolving with management and with the public, and our ability to want to coexist in a positive way with the environment that we love, and to encourage people to come and enjoy Tahoe.
That's the key right there. This is another silly question, but what's your thought on the Farmer's Almanac? You think somebody mentioned it on the radio the other day, like we're in for a shortened winter or something? I thought, don't say that to people. Ask the scientists or something. But
well, it's a big challenge. I have to tell you, I grew up reading the Farmer's Almanac.
I did
every
too.
Year, so
I'm from a family of farmers.
I also grew up reading Fuzzy Caterpillars too. So not to say they're the same, but predicting climate change over the decadal pattern is much easier than predicting what the weather is going to be for the next season. That's a big challenge. But one of the things we're concerned about in climate change is the Sierras are a very sensitive area for changes in the climate. We get the majority of our snow, over 65% of our snow comes within 2 degrees of freezing. So if we were to be getting rain, if that temperature goes up just a small amount, we could get very large rain events in the wintertime. And not only would that have an impact on the ecosystem in Tahoe, but it will greatly impact all the people who depend on that snowpack for agriculture, for drinking water, into the Central Valley and into the Great Basin. And so that's a major issue. We work very closely with climatologists from Desert Research Institute, from the U.S. Geological Survey, from all the institutions in the TSC to try and understand how climate change is really going to be manifested and what that could do to our basin and to the surrounding region.
Well, with you said about 100 projects, which ones are your favorites right now? Do you it's like baseball cards, you always choose one team more than the other team?
I don't choose favorite projects. I have to tell you that as a class, the projects that interest me the most are the ones that are able to look at very challenging management questions and provide really sound science to help managers make decisions. So hopefully that's almost all of them.
So by managers, you mean like the city manager might call you about an air cleaning truck system or something?
Actually, we work very closely with the agencies in the basin, with TRPA, Lahontan Water Board,
Nice people.
the Nevada Department of Environmental Protection and State Lands, the California Tahoe Conservancy.
Nice people.
So we work with all of the agencies in the basin, the Environmental Protection Agency, federal agencies, state agencies, and even local entities to help them have the science that they can use to support their decision making. We don't make the management decisions, but hopefully we give them the science to be able to... You
give them the ammunition to make decisions.
Exactly.
I get all these perplexing things. They just put in new pipes in my neighborhood. And on the concrete, right next to my house, it says, this water from this pipe goes directly into the lake. Why would they say that? Now I feel guilty.
Because
all the pollen from the area, I rinse it off my house because it helps me breathe. Now I'm like putting pollen in the lake.
Well, it's important. It's important. It depends on where the pipe goes and where what it's filtered through before it hits the lake. But you do raise a point that all of us are responsible for managing the lake. The lake is not just managed by agencies, federal, state, and local agencies. The lake and the ecosystem and any ecosystem that we care about is really managed by the people who live there, the people who visit, and the people who care about it from afar. So everybody has a responsibility of asking the question that you just asked.
Well, speaking about personal responsibility, what do you and your husband like to do for fun?
Oh,
are you hikers or bikers?
We are hikers. We love to take our 2 dogs out and go hiking. We love to go out snowshoeing and cross-country skiing in the wintertime. And hopefully I might even get some downhill skiing in this season if we have a good year.
Well, the Heavenly has got 3 ski places now. You can get a big pass.
They do.
In your area, you have Diamond Peak. That's one I might go to for beginners.
Oh, it's lovely. It's lovely. But mostly we like to go out with our dogs.
Excellent.
It's a beautiful place
What kind of
to live.
dogs do you have?
We have 2 rescues, and one black dog and 1 tan dog, and they love to bound around in the hills.
Excellent. I'll keep you on. We're down about 1 minute and 40 seconds. Go ahead and give out your information again.
So if you would like any more information about the science programs, please go to www.tahoescience.org and feel free to contact us by email or call our office. And there are links to all of our partner organizations on that website. So we look forward to hearing from everybody. Any questions, and if you have an opportunity, please come to the Thomas J. Long Education Center at the Tahoe Center for Environmental Sciences. Learn more about the lake and get involved.
Well, the thing I like about you, but you say things I understand. When you spoke to the TRPA, you were so clear, and you were talking about some major subjects, and everybody seemed like they knew what you were talking about. So it's really good. In our last minute, is there anything you want to do for some parting words?
I think it's really important to encourage everybody in the public to get involved in the science and the education programs. And so if you have any interest at all, come up, explore the lake, learn about things. Like I said, go to the education center, become part of your community. The lake is not a natural resource just for those of us who live there or just for those who visit. It is a phenomenal, beautiful place, and it is a place where all of us can really communicate about how valuable it is. And I'm very grateful to all the support that we've gotten from all the institutions and from the federal government to support the science for the last 7 years. And I'm very grateful to you, Michael, for this interview. Thank you
Maureen,
so
for
much.
being on Nevada Trails. It's been Michael Smith from Nevada Trails, and if you live here, be a docent, and if you don't live here, have fun. Thank you.